Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in here. Before we do, I want to introduce myself. My name is Shelby. I have been an agent for 5 years, and I have a team here with Keller Williams called Willow Home Associates, and we've been around for about 2 years now. So what we're going to talk about today is the life cycle of a transaction from the perspective of a buyer's agent. Keep an eye out. We will be doing the same sort of class, but from a listing agent perspective. So we'll be going from taking the client all the way to closing. If you have any questions, I ask that you do write them down, and I have time at the end of the class for you to ask your questions. The reason I do that is A, because I tend to get off track with questions, and B, because there's a good chance your question will get answered throughout the presentation. On that note, I do get really excited about teaching, and I do tend to talk really fast. So if I'm talking too fast and or if you miss something, then please ask me to pause for a second and I will backtrack to where I was. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. Anybody having any difficulty seeing the presentation or hearing me? So that is a no. Okay.
No.
No? Okay. So jumping in here, this is the process for getting a buyer from the starting point to the finish line. This is actually the exact slide that we use in our buyer's consultations. You cannot see where I'm pointing with a laser, but it starts with getting them pre-approved and then all the way to them moving in. We are going through each one of these steps. If you need a screenshot of this, I took a picture and so that's perfect. If someone needs a screenshot of this, I'm happy to send it to you. Just email me. All right. Next, pre-qualifying. So when someone's looking to buy a home, we not only want to pre-qualify them financially, we want to pre-qualify them as far as motivation and ability to purchase. So of course, you're going to ask them when you have that initial phone call, whether it's an open house follow-up call, a sign call on a home that you have listed, or maybe it's a family member or friend. We want to talk to them. Okay, have you talked to the bank? They will probably say yes, they've talked to the bank. We need to dig a little bit deeper. Are they pre-approved or are they pre-qualified? A pre-qualification is a good thing, but that's when they go to the bank and they say, I make this much money, I've worked here for this long, this is about how much I pay in taxes, what do you think? And it's kind of just a general estimate, whereas a pre-approval comes in when they actually send in supporting documentation. There are lenders that pre-approve right off the bat. There are some that wait until they're under contract. And then there are some people that take them all the way to underwriting. So you gotta know who you're working with lender wise, and definitely ask the buyer's not going to know if you say underwriting what that means. So ask them if they sent in supporting documentation, income statements, pay stubs, tax returns, or if they just answered a couple questions, and you'll kind of know where they are in the process. In addition to that, prior to meeting with them, because time is money, we want to see what their motivation is. So the first question to always ask is, why are you guys moving? Are they renting? Are they living with a family member? Are they coming back to the area? Do they need a bigger home, a smaller home? Why are they moving? What's their motivation? Are they working with another agent? That should be question number 2, if not question number 1. If they're already working with an agent, you say, great, good luck. Let me know if you need anything, and hang up the phone. We do not want to cross the sign, okay? Do not go there. What is the amount that they would like to comfortably spend? And I always ask that question, even if they are pre-approved or even if they do have the cash funds to purchase more. The reason being is someone could be pre-approved for $220, but they look at that payment and it stresses them out. So they'd rather be somewhere that's closer to $200,000. That's okay. And you asking that question is going to really build that relationship with them. Have they bought a home before? Do they need to sell? All these questions right here, I don't need to read all of them out to you. Another really important question, or 2 of them, is what their timeline is and what their 3 to 5 top needs are. The reason we ask that is because we need to know what we're getting ourselves into. If they have a very small budget and really high expectations of a home, it's going to be a completely different conversation when you sit down with them. And then their timeline, if they're pre-approved now, but they can't get out of their lease until December, is that someone you really want to meet with right now? That's the decision that you need to make. So you really got to know what you're getting into. So these are the pre-qualification questions. Next, we talk about the consultation. I'm happy to, at the end of class, if you guys want, show you the presentation that we present to our buyers. I'm happy to go through that with you if we have time. The biggest thing here is do not make it complicated. Some people have 40-page presentations. Some people print their presentations. Some people have no consultation at all. Whatever you choose, these are the things that you should be doing in your consultation. Set the expectations. What do I mean by that? Let them know what the process is, and we don't want to make the process seem traumatizing, but we need to let them know, what to expect as far as if the inspection has a lot of repairs, if the appraisal comes in low, what closing's going to look like, what their timeline's going to look like, what the market looks like. We need to give them that information. That's our job. Again, we don't want to scare them and tell them all the horror stories that we've had. And if I break this table, it's going to be really embarrassing. All right. So set those expectations. You also want to take some time to review their motivation and their timeline. Especially, let's say you talk to the husband and now you're meeting with the husband and wife, make sure they're on the same page. You are working with both clients, okay? So review their motivation. Hey, we had talked yesterday and I know that you said that you're renting right now and you would like to be out of your rental and into your new home by August. Is that correct? And then move forward with that. The next thing is their needs analysis. And again, I'll show you what these questions look like. I'm telling you right now, the more questions you ask in this first conversation, the less homes you're going to be showing, okay? I know who I've qualified and who I've asked the right questions to based on the number of homes that I've showed them. So dive deep. If they say they need a big kitchen, what does a big kitchen look like to you? If they say they need a big yard, is that 10 acres or is that 1 because they've never really had a yard over 1/4 of an acre before? So don't assume, dig deep in there. What are they picturing? What do they need versus what do they want? When they think of the home that they're purchasing, what does it look like? Do they need central air? Those kinds of things. Dig deep. Review the buying process as we already talked about. That's supposed to say begin. That's a spelling error. Begin an exclusive search for them. As an agent, we have access to the MLS. It's really, really easy to start up an auto email from there. You're going to go into MLS, go to residential search unless they're looking for commercial or multifamily, put in their criteria, and then you go down to the bottom and you hit save. Once you hit results, go down to save, hit auto email, and then anything that comes on the market that fits their criteria will send to them as soon as it's listed. Keep in mind, we cannot send them coming soon. So what I recommend you do is set yourself up on a search or remind yourself weekly to look at what's coming soon that might fit the bill for them, because especially in this market with low inventory, it's really good to know what's coming and get them in there as soon as possible. T of the referral business. And what I mean by that is at the end of our consultation, we remind them that our business only grows based on their satisfaction and the people that they refer to us. And so we let them know that throughout the process, we're going to be asking them how the process is going, if there's anything else they need or anything else we can change, and then we'll be asking for that referral business. Once you've teed all that up, get that agreement signed, and then set up a day for them to go out and look for property. I have a trick of the trade down at the bottom, but something else to do is show them on a calendar when they need to be under contract by to fulfill their ideal move-in date. If they want to be in a home by the end of July, they need to be under contract by June 15th or June 30th at the latest. And that's because we assume 30 to 45 days of closing, okay? So that gives them an idea of where they need to be. Another trick too is if they have a ton of needs and you know that there's not going to be any homes that fit their criteria, show them that search. Put all that criteria in the search in MLS and show them that there's 0 results, and then walk backwards through that process, taking out things that aren't as important to them as others are until they get results, okay? Have all these conversations out of the way now. All right, so that's the presentation. We've had the presentation. we've signed them up, and now we want to get ready for showings. In the consultation, I let my buyers know that if we're seeing more than 10 homes and they haven't written any offers on them, that we're coming back in and we're having a face-to-face or now Zoom meeting to go over their needs again, because clearly we're missing the mark. Now, if we see 10 homes and they've already wrote 2 offers and they just didn't get accepted, that's a different conversation. We're clearly finding what they want. It's just not working out. Okay. If you want to show less homes than that, then you set that expectation. But we see about an average, especially in today's market, of about 10 homes. So before the showing, you always, especially in this market, want to check the status of the home. If you looked at the home on Monday and it's now Thursday, it could be gone. It could be completely under contract, and inspections ordered and all that stuff. So have them send you a list of the homes that they like, and then check the status and make sure they're on the market. In addition to that, if there's a home that you see that you think that they really are going to like, or if you want to call all of them, call the agents or text the agents and just say, hey, we're seeing this home on Thursday. Do you have any offers on it? Okay. You want to know what you're getting yourselves into. And some buyers don't even want to see a home if it already has offers on it, especially if they've already wrote offers on homes that have multiple offers and they lost out on it. So check that. Schedule based on the best route. This is, we already have these tools. So through MLS, you can schedule the showing right through MLS or HomeSnap, and it goes through an app called Showing Time. You can also download the Showing Time app, and you have like a showing cart. So you put in all the showings that you want to do in that day, and then it'll organize them in the best order of the quickest route for you. Or you can add all the addresses into Google Maps and do the same thing. So schedule those based on the best route. Again, make good use of the time for yourselves. I usually allow about 30 minutes per showing. Some people are quicker, some people are faster, slower, I should say. If you take a day and someone takes a little bit longer than a half hour, then just to make that adjustment for the following time. Do make sure that the homes fit the buyer's need and financing, and let them know if they don't. They might get a little bit frustrated, but they're going to appreciate that in the end if you're like, hey, you told me that you needed a fenced-in backyard. This doesn't even have a fence, and I don't think the neighborhood will allow a fence, right? You want to be showing them homes that are really going to work for them, or if their needs changed, you need to know that as well. Be ready to answer questions about the homes, days on market, the disclosures, utilities, price changes, and the current price, any recent updates. Is it as is? Is it a bank-owned property? All that stuff. I used to, when I first started in the business, print out all of the showings that I was doing, all the MLS sheets. You can totally do that. I don't have a printer at home, and I've come to find that I like the app HomeSnap, if not using the Keller Williams app, of course. But if you use HomeSnap, sign up as an agent, it'll give you, it's basically the MLS on a mobile app. You'll have the disclosures if the agent has them uploaded. Very quickly, you can find the price, square footage, and days on market. Scroll down, you can see all the utilities and the pricings for that, any price changes. It's all right there on that app. Now, of course, make sure you know where you're going, and make sure that you assume that you should have service in those areas. Otherwise, you're not going to have any information if you go to the home and you don't have service. Now I will pause. Any questions about any of that? We've had the consultation, we've pre-qualified them, and now we're getting ready for the showings. Any questions up through now?
I have a question.
Sure.
So you said we can't send them the coming soons. Are we allowed to tell them about the coming soons, or do we mark those? How does that work?
So yeah, unless something's changed, I know that we're not supposed to send them the coming soon listings. How that works for the conversation that I have with clients is, hey, I was looking and it looks like a 3-bedroom home in wherever it is, Hagerstown, that's going to suit your needs, is coming on the market. Would you like me to go ahead and schedule a time for you to see that when it's available? And you can go ahead and schedule the showing. I actually had somebody just do that on one of our coming soon listings, because it has it'll be on the market date. So you can go ahead and set up the showing for when it'll be active, if that makes sense.
Are you allowed to give them the address, or?
double check with Lenny. You got to be careful about that. We're not supposed to market homes that aren't technically on the market, but they could
Okay.
have signed agreements. So you have to like teeter that, but you're not technically supposed to show it while it's coming soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah, I would like to know that also, Shelby, because I was told that we can now show give the list of coming soons.
I'll ask, I think Lenny's here, so I'll ask Lenny.
Awesome.
We'll go on
Thank
the
you.
break. I'll double check with him.
Thank you.
Yep. Some people, and what the difference is there, some people say you can
What
do
was the
it.
question?
Hey, Lenny.
What was the question?
We're not able to send clients coming soon listings, right?
Yes, you can.
We can do that now.
You can't show them. You can't show them until they're active.
Okay, but we can send them.
And you can actually even present an offer if you have the seller, but they can't have seen the property.
Perfect, even better. Okay, cool, thanks, Lenny.
We can't. Hey, Lenny, we are allowed to do an agent's view and do a virtual if the listing agent and seller agrees to that, correct?
No,
No?
you cannot show the property cannot be shown.
Okay. Good to know.
So it can't be shown, but you can send them the MLS listing, right?
Yes,
Correct.
Is that where we landed? Okay.
thank you, Lenny.
Yep.
And good question, Lori, because I thought agents could view it, so that's good to know. All right. So we can send them coming soon listings, so include that, but make sure you let them know, set that expectation ahead of time. We can't see this, but I can send it to you and we can get in there as soon as it's available. And you can schedule the showing for when it's going to be active. It just can't be shown prior to that. Now, during the showing, and I'm going to have to move you guys over because I can't read my slideshow. Give me 1 second. All right, during the showing, we want to make sure, if you haven't already seen the home, try to get familiar with it through the pictures. At least that's my recommendation. But walking through, point out the features of the home that meet their needs and even any other special features. But let them come up with their own assumption as to whether they think that it's if something's ugly or something doesn't work. Prime example, I was showing a home and it had paneling in the home that was painted like this neon green color. And I said, oh, you can, you could probably take these down or, paint over it. And they're like, no, we love it. So you just never quite know what people are going to like. I wouldn't make those assumptions, but definitely point out the features of the home that that they're looking for. Pay attention to their body language and their vocabulary. If they're already, planning out where they're going to put furniture, if they are sitting in the furniture that's already there, those kinds of things. If they're staying there for a longer time than they normally stay there, usually that's a good sign. And oddly enough, even if they are kind of picking the home apart, sometimes that's them trying to talk themselves out of liking the home. Like, oh, we like this, but that can't work. That won't work out. So pay attention to those things. Prior to leaving the home, take note of any feedback that you have for the client or for the agent. And then ask your clients how they would rate the home. I use a scale of 1 to 5, but you can use 1 to 10, whatever. If it's, close to a 4 or 5 or an 8 to 10, ask them, are you ready to make an offer on it? What needs to change for it to put an offer in? Sometimes the things that need change could be negotiated into the contract. Ask if they're ready to make an offer. And then obviously before leaving, secure all doors, turn off all the lights, and provide the feedback. As someone who has listings, I love getting feedback. As someone who shows property, I'm terrible at providing it. So provide the feedback. It's really helpful for the sellers and the agents on the other side. As a safety thing, I know this is just kind of going off tangent. First off, hopefully you're not meeting any buyers you've never met with in person. But if you are, don't park in the driveway, park where you can easily get out. Keep yourself between the door and the client at all times, just in case you ever need to get out quickly, and know where your exits are. I don't want to go into detail of all the scary things that could happen, but think ahead, especially if you've never met these folks before. All right, so now they've seen the home, they've decided on one that they'd like to make an offer on, and now we're going to write out the offer. I got to make this smaller so you can see what I'm doing. So there's 2 sides to the offer. There's information we need to get from the listing side, and then there's information that you need to get from your buyers. The information from the listing side are the disclosures. Most agents, or a little more than half, put the disclosures and the information on MLS. If not, then reach out to the agent immediately and get that information sent over to you so you can put the offer in. In that conversation, ask how many offers they've had, if they've had any previous offers, and they shouldn't be telling you what any offers are, but sometimes they do. So the more information they give you, the better for you and your clients. I would even ask what the seller's motivations are. Again, the agent shouldn't be telling you that information, but if they do, that's on them. Ask about the price. If the seller's willing to give any concessions, just dig deep and see what the listing agent, information the listing agent divulges to you. In addition to the disclosures, make sure you have the inclusions and any other supporting documents that might change up your offer. Now, from the buyer, before you write it up, obviously you need to figure out what price point you're going to put the offer in. If they already had multiple offers, are you using an escalation clause? Are you just going to go in at a higher price? What's the closing date? Again, typically it's 30 to 45 days out, but double check that that works with your buyer and double check that the lender can do that. What inspections do they want? Always, always, always recommend that a buyer gets all the inspections. Don't talk a buyer out of getting inspections. That's their decision, and we always recommend that they get all the inspections. Earnest money deposit. Typically, an earnest money deposit in this area is $500 to $1,000, but technically it can be any amount that the buyer wants to put down, and let them know what could possibly happen with the EMD, especially if they get out of the contract illegally. Any concerns that they might have about the home, make sure you're asking about that. A, because we need to know if we need to point those out to the inspector, and B, because some of them, if it's like carpet or paint or whatever, sometimes we can ask for carpet allowances or painting allowances. Go over the cost of inspections and appraisals, make sure everything's good on that. And then any specific inclusions or exclusions, put in the contract. It's better to be safe than sorry. If they have a really fancy refrigerator and that's the one thing that the buyers love, I would take a picture of it and include it in the contract, because if it just says a refrigerator is included, they could technically swap it out. Are they going to? Not necessarily. Or if they like the front porch swing, make sure you put that in there, because it can be up in the air whether that's an inclusion or a fixture or not. So be specific if there are specific things that they want. Never assume that the seller's just going to leave things there. Any questions on writing the offer? No? Okay. All right. So now that we've written the offer, we have sent it over to the buyers have signed, and we've sent it over to the agent. And now the agent and seller, all your negotiations are done. So once we send the offer over to the agent and the agent presents to the sellers can accept it as it is, meaning they change no terms. They can completely deny it. If they deny an offer, I would get it in writing that they denied it, just so you know it was presented. And then the last option, which is the most common option, is a counter. If they change one thing or they change 10 things, it's a counter. In which case they counter, meaning that they cross through or they edit the contract and initial, and then it has to go back to the buyer for the buyer to agree and initial. At the point that buyer and seller agree on everything with initials and signatures, then you are officially ratified, executed in escrow, under contract. It's all the same thing. So that's when the real fun begins. At the point that you are under contract, you are now the ringmaster. You got to keep everything in order and make sure everything, flows the way that it's supposed to. So you're going to send the ratified contract to the title company that the buyer has chose and the lender, and then I always send a copy to the buyer just so they have it. Assist the buyer in setting up the inspections. What I like to do is we send an email out of all the important dates: closing date, contingencies, inspections that they said that they wanted, things that the seller's purchasing. We send out all that information, just kind of like a synopsis of the contract, and then we send them the 3 inspectors that we recommend, and let them know that they can choose whoever they want to choose. These are the inspections that they need to order. and then we have them set that up. Now, if they need help with that, then we have them on the phone and we're going through the process with them. We don't just like to go out and schedule the inspections for them just in case they can't come to that date or something goes awry with that inspector. We like to put that all on them. The next thing is have a list of all the important dates, contingencies, settlements, etc. This is where you should be using command, and I'll show you how we have our command set up. You can move them right through the process so that you know that you have everything all in order. And I put the same dates and notes in my command, so I have everything all together. Whoops, went backwards. You're going to process the contract and submit it for review within 48 hours of execution. What I mean by that is once it's under contract, send it to the title company, send it to the lender. You're going to put it in .loop or DocuSign, make sure it's split and in the order that it needs to be for command. And then you're going to put everything in command and make sure everything's filled out. There's no blanks, no missing signatures, all the right dates, everything's in there. Make sure you're using the right contracts, and then submit that over to Lenny for him to look at. Any questions on that? Okay, and remind me, I'll show you my opportunities here. Okay, so now we have inspection to order, and I usually let my clients know that, like, if we have like a 10-day contingency for inspections, I let them know what that date is, and I also let them know that they should, let's just say in 10 days, it's the 10th. I let them know that their inspections should be done no later than like the 7th or 8th. That way you have time to get the report back and preview it before you have to get a response back to the seller. So just keep that in mind. For your inspection contingencies, I usually, like I said, I usually do about 10 days. You can sometimes get away with 7, but as busy as it is, a little bit longer is better, but you don't want to go too long. Septic inspections, though, that's for like general septic inspections and water inspections that go a little bit longer, like 30 days, because we do the general inspection and then we order the septic inspection after that. We don't want to make them pay for that stuff if they're not going to continue with the contract. So once you have the inspections, you and the buyer, depending on the system that the inspectors allow, you guys will go to the home, and then the buyers will receive a report. Let your buyers know prior to inspections, this is going to be 30 to 40 pages of information on the house, stuff that's wrong, stuff that's not wrong. It's going to be a lot of information, and they're going to want it to be that much information so that they know. But you don't want them to be scared when they see a whole packet of things that are wrong with the house. So I always let them know ahead of time, hey, it's going to be 30 to 40 pages. So they're going to receive that report, and you guys are going to schedule a time to review the inspection report with the buyer. Again, prior to inspections and at the consultation, I let them know when we go through the report, we're looking for health and safety issues, and then we'll go through and talk about any other like cosmetic things that they are worried about. Using the proper addendum, you're going to create a repair request list or credit request. So find the things that they are concerned about, make a list of them, and I usually do like page number, section number, and then the item and how we want it repaired. Some things you might not even want repaired. Maybe you just want a contractor to come out and say in writing that it's working the way that it should be. So make sure you're clear on that and make sure the client's clear on what they want. Review that with them and have them sign. Once the buyers have signed, you're going to send that inspection repair addendum over to the listing agent. I always give the listing agent a call. A, I want to make sure that they got it. And then B, if there's anything that's like major, I don't want them to be alarmed by it, or if it's a super long list, I just like to have that courtesy call with them. So that way they're not stunned by it or there's no like bad feelings over it. And then lastly, once the seller gets it, the seller will decide, okay, I'm good with fixing all these things. I'm good with fixing this and getting a credit for this. I don't want to fix anything. They can counter however they want to counter. It goes back to the buyers. And then once the buyer and seller are in agreement, you have another ratified addendum, and you'll send that over to the title company, but do not send anything as far as the inspection goes over to the lender. They could red flag things and then make things, say things need to be fixed that you weren't, too worried about. So be careful with that. Another trick of the trade, I already mentioned this, but I just want to emphasize, prior to the inspections, remind the buyer that the inspection report will be 30 to 40 pages, even if it's a new build home. I've seen long long list of things that need fixed on new build homes. Let them know what you and they will be looking for out of, you know, health and safety issues, and then go through that list with them. Any questions on that? Okay. So now that you've had the inspection, you and the seller and the buyers and the listing agent have all agreed on what's going to be fixed, then now we want to get started with the appraisal. So once the inspections are completed and all parties are in agreement with the repairs, have the lender order the appraisal. I ideally don't like to do it before then, because again, if we don't have the inspection report back and now we have an appraisal, the buyers are paying for that appraisal and we don't even know if they're going to stick out through the contract based on the inspection. So try to hold off if you can without extending closing too much. Now, appraisals are a third-party process. So what I mean by that is the appraisal is ordered through the lender. The lender goes through a third-party service. That third-party service then puts out like a blast that says, hey, you know, we need an appraisal done. Appraisers bid on that, and then it's ordered. So no one really has direct contact with who gets to do the appraisal. No one really has a choice over that, unless it's a cash purchase and the buyer's choosing that on their own. So the appraiser is going to call the listing agent, get access to the property. They're going to go out. Some appraisers take like 30 minutes and some take 4 hours. So it kind of just depends on who you get. On the buyer side, you don't need to be concerned about that. On the listing side, I just like to give my sellers a heads up. Once the appraiser is done and has completed his report, usually it takes within that day to a 24-hour span to get the report back to the lender, or to create that report. And then I usually say about a week from the day of appraisal to the day that we actually get the results and everything in. So just that's probably a little extra time, but just to be aware of that. Now, if it takes longer than a week to get the appraisal back, then I would be contacting the lender and just saying like, hey, you know, what's up, what's going on? Sometimes you'll get sellers that ask like what the value of the appraisal was. First off, you have to get permission from the buyers because they purchased that, what the value is, and you have to get their permission to share that with the listing agent. But I usually wait until closing and even after everything's signed before I tell the buyers that they can give out that, before they should give out that information. Once the appraisal comes back, it's going to come back in a couple different ways. So if there are, that's supposed to say no repairs. If there are no repairs needed, or some repairs. So they could be no repairs and value's good, then you just move on. There could be value's good and there could be some repairs. And then if that's the case, we don't need to adjust the value, but there are just a couple small repairs. The first thing you're going to do is ask the seller first. So go to the listing agent and say, hey, we got the appraisal back. We need the vent on the back of the dryer connected, and we need one of the windows painted. Ask the seller if they're going to do that first. If for some reason the seller isn't willing to do that, then the buyer obviously has to like order a contractor or whatever and get those things fixed, or they have to get out of the contract because they can't get financing. So those are your options there. If the value, repairs aside, if the value comes in higher than what you're under contract as, then you're good. You can have a party. Your buyers already have equity in the home. And what I mean by that is you could be under contract at $200,000 and the value comes in at $210,000. That's amazing. That's great news. That's what you want. The buyers then got a deal. So that's good. If the value is lower than what you're under contract at, first see if the seller will lower the price, meaning if you're under contract at $210,000 and the appraisal came in at $200,000, we have to contractually get that price down to $200,000. So hopefully the seller's just like, you know what, that's fine. We'll just lower the price. That's perfectly fine. Then you'll just amend that on your contract, have all the parties sign, send it off to title and the lender, and you'll be good to go. If the seller is not willing to lower the price, then the next step would be to see if he's willing to split the difference with the buyer, because keep in mind, for the buyer to get financing, if it appraised at $200,000, the bank's only going to give them $200,000. So they have to come up with that difference on their own, whether it's extra cash or they split it with the seller, or you and the listing agent somehow, lower your commission so that the seller can have that price lowered. So there are options there. If no one's willing to budge, or if it's like a huge gap, then the buyer is not able to get financing, and hopefully you wrote up your financing contingency long enough to cover you to closing, so that then they can, you know, contractually get out of the contract for lack of financing. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay. Lots of options there. Again, this is another expectation to set up with the buyers at the consultation. You don't want to scare them though. You just want to let them know, you know, what their options are if for some reason that does happen. Especially, like I said, in today's market, people are offering outrageous prices, and you have to keep in mind what the appraisal value might come in at. I've also heard some agents, if the appraisal, this is another option too, if an appraisal comes in lower than what you're under contract at, and you're pretty confident on your price, you can always send like a comparable market analysis to the lender and help the lender to rebuttal that appraisal value. So that's an option too, but you should be really confident on your pricing. All right, so once we've had the appraisal done and everything's good to go on the appraisal, then we need to work on getting clear to close. This is usually the final, you know, nail biter. After the appraisal, the loan goes through a final processing and underwriting. So you and the buyer can have the golden ticket to closing. And what that looks like is it's on the lender side. You know, they're finalizing the buyer's bank accounts, their documents, making sure they didn't buy furniture or car in the middle of a process and completely mess up the whole deal. So they're just finalizing everything. They're taking the appraisal and just making sure that it's all good to go. During this time for your side of it, while the lender is doing what they're doing, go ahead and schedule your final walkthrough. I usually recommend the day of or the day before. You don't want to leave too much time in between there, because the sellers will be moving and things could go wrong. So as close to closing as you possibly can. Get receipts of any repairs that you had requested. Review the contract and all the contingencies. Make sure, you know, if Lenny sent back the contract, make sure you fix everything that needs fixed. Make sure you have all your contingencies, everything's in order. Get the utility company information. So we, on the listing side, like to send this out to the buyer's agents. So make sure you're getting that information for your buyers. You know, who's the water company, who's the gas, who's whatever, who they get for septic services, cable, all that stuff. The more utility information you can get, the better. And you're going to send that off to the buyer. Let them know that they should be calling the utility companies prior to closing to let them know, especially if they're closing on a Friday. If you're closing on a Friday, you're not going to be able to call those utility companies until Monday, and you don't want that electricity turned off or the water turned off. It can just be a hassle. So get that information and let them know that you recommend they call them, you know, as soon as possible, just to let them know when they're going to be, you know, closing on the property and putting the property in their name. Schedule and confirm the time for settlement with the title company. You are, in the beginning of the process, sending the contract to the title company with a tentative date that's on the contract, but usually you don't have an exact time yet. So this like last week or two of the process, make sure you're securing that time slot. Send over the DA to the title company, especially for Maryland, West Virginia, you're not going to do this for Maryland, but a DA is a disbursement authorization. So at Keller Williams, we have the green sheet. So anytime we have a deal close or about to close, we do the green sheet. And then Kate can then get a disbursement authorization that says, this is how much you're going to be making. This is how much Keller Williams is going to be making from this deal. So get that DA from Kate and send that over to the title company, and that's how you can get paid at closing. Otherwise, we'll go through the process of how you get paid after that. But you can get paid at the table if you have that disbursement authorization. And then the final step, once they have clear to close, make sure the buyers have at least a preliminary closing disclosure, if not the actual closing disclosure, so that they know what amount for the check they need to get for their closing costs. The title company will send one, and then the lender will also send one. Any questions on that? Perfect. All right, now we're at the home stretch. We have the closing, our clear to close. We've done all those steps. Now we're actually preparing for closing. This all should be happening closing day or the day before. So confirm that all parties are good to go, meaning title, lender, co-op agent, buyer, everyone's good to go. Have your final walkthrough. At the final walkthrough, make sure that you have, whether it's a printed copy or you have your .loop open up on your phone, make sure you have a copy of the repair request that you made from the inspection. Make sure you have a copy of the inclusions to make sure they didn't take anything they weren't supposed to take. A final walkthrough document to fill out. Measuring tape. I actually have like a little, buyers always want to measure rooms. So I always make sure I have a measuring tape with me. I even have like, for really cheap, you can get like a laser measure, which makes the process really quick. And then it's just like that one more thing that the buyers really appreciate. Check faucets, spigots under the sinks, check the water temperature, heating, cooling, making sure like all that little stuff is working. And then obviously the repairs. Now, keep in mind, you're not a contractor or, a plumber or anything, so you're not guaranteeing anything, but we just like to make sure that we're double checking those and that the buyer's looking at all that stuff. If for some reason there's something taken that wasn't supposed to be taken, there's things left and the buyer's utterly offended that things have been left behind, like trash or whatever, or something is not working, A, call the agent immediately. And B, you're going to fill out that final walkthrough document and make those, put that in the document, and then how the buyer would like those to be fixed, whether it's a credit at settlement, or they bring the stuff back or whatever the case may be. Okay, you're going to fill out the final walkthrough document, send it over to the agent, or take it if you're doing your final walkthrough the day of settlement. You can just take your final walkthrough document to settlement, hand it to the title agent, and she'll make a copy and have everybody sign it for you. Grab the key. Whoops, I keep doing that. Grab the key. And I always ask the agent, the listing agent, if they want us to grab the lockbox for them. It's a huge help for them to not have to run out to the property, so we just ask if they want us to grab that. If it's a central lockbox, they can give you a code to put in to release the shackle. If it's a combo lockbox, it's usually just a switch inside the box. But confirm with them that they want you to grab that before you just take it. And then last, review the closing disclosure. Make sure that the commissions are right, the credits to the buyers are correct, the deposits are correct. If there's a post-occupancy, you want to make sure that the deposit that the seller is putting on hold is correct, all those things. Okay. I should have it on here if I didn't already. Make sure that the buyer has the check, or at least has called the bank to let them know that they're coming in to get a check for a closing. Some closings aren't until like 5 o'clock, and some banks close at 4 o'clock. So you want to make sure that they're planning that out. I always recommend that the buyer gets their check for a little bit more than what they were estimated, just in case. And then any money that is extra, they get cut back at title. So they get that money back. No one's keeping that extra money. Anything else? Okay. Now it's closing day. We've officially made it. Nothing's guaranteed until those documents are signed and copied. But for settlement, we actually put it in the calendar event for our clients with the address of the title company. We asked them to bring their ID because they're going to need that. The cashier's check for their closing costs. It cannot be a personal check. Cannot be a personal check. And then any questions that they might have for the seller, especially if like there's a pool or like a wood stove and they don't know how to use that. And of course the seller always knows like that light switch in the living room, if you hit it twice, it works, all those little tricks of the house. So any questions that they might have for the seller, make sure they wrote those down. You as the agent, you're going to bring your DA if you've not already sent it, a final walkthrough document, the keys, the lockbox, and the EMD if necessary. The EMD usually is held at our office, so we can take that with us. Kate sometimes will mail it, or they'll take it out of the check and then you'll just get it cut back when you bring your check into Kate. Okay, any questions on that? No? Okay. All right, you've closed, all right? You've closed, your buyer's hopefully happy and your sellers are happy, and now we gotta finish processing out the deal. So post-closing, you've come back to the office or it's the next day. You're gonna take that folder that you get at settlement. It's gonna have the checks in there and the closing disclosure, the ALTA, the HUD statement, whatever you wanna call it. And I'll show you what that looks like, because I'm sure if I keep saying CD or closing disclosure, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I'll show you a copy of what that looks like. So you're gonna make a copy, whether at home or here in the office, make a copy of the CD or scan it to yourself. and then a copy of the checks for your file. Then you're gonna take the original folder and you're gonna stick it under Kate's door and let her know that, and email her or text her and let her know that it's there. And that's what I mean by submitting the checks and the CD to Kate. If you got paid at settlement, like a direct check to you because you submitted your DA, make a copy of your check and include that for Kate just so she has it. Make sure your opportunity is approved. This should already have been done, but go back through, make sure you're not missing anything. Add those extra documents to your dot loop or your DocuSign. Next, on your side of things, make sure you're claiming your sold listing. I would wait 24 hours after it's closed. But what I mean by this is whenever you put a home under contract and you're the buyer's agent, the listing agent should be putting you in the MLS as the agent on the buying side so that when it closes, it's in the MLS and then it syndicates to all the other websites that you've closed that. Sometimes websites like Zillow or Realtor.com do not sync. So again, I would wait 24 to 48 hours, but I would go to Zillow. You're gonna make an agent account. And then once you have an account, there's a little tab in the right-hand corner called Agent Hub. And then you can go down to recent solds, I think it is. And then you can put in there that and claim that you've sold this property. So just, you want to take advantage. You've sold a property, so make sure you're getting the credit for it. Update your client's contact information, add their new mailing address, label them as a past client, whatever your method is there. But make sure you have like their new address and their home anniversary. It's a great way to follow up with them. Schedule and check in with the clients in a couple days. Give them time to move in, but I usually check in like the following, like a week after or like 4 days after, just to see how they're doing. And then give your co-op a call and just thank them for, don't lie. If it wasn't a great deal, don't say it was a great deal, but give them a call and just thank them for, working together and that you enjoyed it, and go from there. If you're looking to build your downline, this is a great way to give a call and have that conversation and meet up with them for coffee and just, talk about things and see how business is going. Any other questions before I get into the side notes? Okay, I feel like I've been talking for hours, so I apologize. All right, some things that every deal has kind of the same general outline, which is what we just went through, but every deal kind of also has like its own little parts to it. Maybe one's keeping the chandelier, or maybe one has a rent back, maybe one has a pre-occupancy, a septic inspection. There's going to be different things, but they're all the same general outline. So these are just little things that maybe I've been through or things I just want you to remember. Rent backs and post occupancy. What that means is that the seller is staying in the home past the settlement date. So legally the home is the buyer's, but the seller is staying there because maybe they need to move to Florida, but they needed a couple days in between before their home settles, whatever the case may be. So if the seller is staying in the home after closing, be sure to have the proper documents. That would be your post occupancy document. Don't create one. There's already one for you. Use the proper document. And the final walkthrough of the home, you're gonna wanna go again after they've fully moved out. So I do a final walkthrough and then I put a note in there. It's in the pre-occupancy document, just double check it. But I like to make a note, buyer accepts the home if anything's changed or damaged, while the home is being occupied by the seller post-closing, seller will, compensate for those damages. And it's in the post-occupancy document too. That's why deposit's held by the title company. But I meet up with the buyers after the sellers have fully moved out, and we just do a quick walkthrough again, make sure, again, nothing's missing or nothing's damaged that shouldn't have been. And then once that's done, once they've moved out, email the title company, let them know everything's good to go and that they can release that deposit back to the seller. Another thing, win, when, or no deal. I know most of you, if not all of you, are already with Keller Williams. So we always talk about a win-win or no deal. Keep this in mind throughout the whole process, okay? Keep you and your client's emotions in check. We are not in competition with the seller, even though some people set it up as that. It's not, I'm not giving you a credit because you don't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. We all want to get to the settlement table. Buyers and sellers, they want to sell their home and buy their home. We want them to buy and sell their homes. We are not in competition with the listing party. Everyone shares the same goal, and always remember who you represent. While I say win-win or no deal, also make sure your client's not getting taken advantage of. So you got to know your stuff, but if we can help it, we want to make it work for everybody. And then the same thing, like no smack talk or pointing the finger. If the listing party is being difficult, don't call your client and be like, the seller sucks. You know, he absolutely sucks. He's being difficult. That's just going to create an animosity in the deal that doesn't need to be. It just makes it more difficult for you in the end. Okay. Over communicate. No news is still news. Especially, you know, for a buyer, they don't know the process. We eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. This is their first time, if not maybe their second time in 10 years. So we want to over communicate. Let them know, hey, you know, we're still waiting on clear to close. While we're doing that, you know, this is what's going on. And that'll give you a smoother transaction because you're going to be keeping your client up to date as well as title, lender, and the co-op agent regularly. Okay. Be solution based. There's always something that could happen in a transaction. Be ready at every turn by setting the expectations up front with your client and by being willing to get creative to make a deal work. It never hurts to ask. You know, sometimes you got to get creative. You know, it's altering the norm so that it can make a deal work. Now, obviously, make sure you're not doing anything illegal. And, you know, for those creative ideas, talk to Lenny first and make sure that they are, you know, something that you can and should be doing. But it never hurts to ask. Never assume or, you know, let the client know, hey, the seller's not going to do that if you've never even asked. And keep in mind, you always have our support here at the office. The biggest thing is to know that you are going to always be learning. I know people have been in business for 18 years, 1 year, 5 years. We're always learning something new. There's always something unique to the deal. Always going to be learning. You can't know it all, so just jump right in. Get out there and just do it because you're always going to have someone here to help you. If it's happened, we've probably been through it. I mean, I've had deals where the buyer just went MIA the day of closing. So I've actually had that happen twice. So, I mean, you name it, someone's been through it and we can help you go through it. You're not alone. So don't be scared of the what ifs, just get out there and do it. Okay. Now, any time for any other questions? And I'm going to, is there anything, okay, so no questions, I guess. Is there anything that you guys wanted to see? Do you want to see the buyer's consultation? We have like 3 minutes. Do you guys want to see a buyer's consultation? Do you want to see my opportunities? Anything that you want to look at?
I think opportunities would be good.
Okay, let me go ahead and jump right over into that then. Let me navigate this Zoom here. Whoops. Oh, there's my information too, guys, if you need it. I need to switch my screen. There we go. Where am I? All right. Bear with me, guys. All right. Alrighty. Can you guys see my screen? My opportunities?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm loading up my opportunities. This is how I have mine set up once they're under contract. So once they're under contract, I have an under contract tab, and in that, I'll show you on my checklist. Let me do one step at a time here. So we have under contract, we have the inspections. Let me zoom out. Inspections, appraisal. I don't know why I won't slide over. Jeez. Sorry guys, just trying to slide over here. There we go. Appraisal, clear to close, and then post-closing. The reason I have the post-closing tab in under contract is If you move it to closed and it's towards the end of the month, at the end of the month, all your deals from that month clear out of opportunities. So just in case it takes you like a day or so to, get all that post-closing stuff done, you don't want to lose it. And then I also have a tab for canceled contracts. That way I can just keep tab of our fallout rate. So under contract, inspections, appraisal, clear to close, closed, and then post-closing. And let me show you what those stages look like. There's a lot of checklist items, so bear with me. So once it goes under contract, and you guys can take a picture of this if you want. This is, you can see the whole list, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the whole process for, once it's under contract, these are the things that we're doing, or the items that we're checking off. Down at the bottom, yep, okay, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So that's initial under contract. Again, we're processing that hopefully within the day, if not no later than 48 hours. Next, we have the inspections. There's not as many items, but these are the checklist items we have for the inspections. Some items we have on here won't pertain to every deal, but I'd rather delete something than not have it because we didn't have it on the checklist. I'm being real stupid here. Let me go back. I'm in the wrong, that was in listings, but it's the same thing. Sorry, guys. Okay, so there's the buyer under contract. Just take a picture of that if you're taking pictures, because it should be about the same thing, but this is buyer perspective, my bad. And then inspections. Appraisal. And then the clear to close. And I'll give you the post-closing checklist here in a second. Okay. And let me go. Shoot. Here's the post-closing checklist. Any questions on that? Any of those?
Do we add all these in ourselves?
Yep.
Okay.
So I edited all of these. I even edited I don't even know what the original boxes are, but I added hold on. These, we changed these. That might be the original for closed, but for the under contract, I know we changed. And everybody has them, labeled a little bit differently, but whatever works for you. Anything else you guys have questions on, or anything else that you'd like me to share or go over again?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, hopefully you got something out of this. If you need anything else, let me know. I'm gonna keep going through this and revamping this, and then we'll be doing one for the listing side as well. So if there's anything else you guys think that I need to cover or I should add, please email me. I would love to get your input. And in the meantime, just thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.